Hello, in this video I'm going to be talking about your inner critic, and we're going to explore which one do you listen to most, the inner critic that's an abusive dictator or the loving guide. We all have both, but which one is primary in you? When you practice your musical instrument or when you perform, who are you listening to most? That critic who's a dictator or loving guide? So let's dive into this, and before we do, I just want to say hello to anybody who is watching live now, and if you are, just say hello. So I'm seeing Joe is on. Hey Joe, it's nice to have you back. And if you're watching the replay, your comments are just as important, so please don't hesitate to comment and be part of this presentation. And if anybody's got questions, just tag me and I'll do my best to come back later if you tag me during the replay, and I will answer your questions. So if we haven't met yet, I'm Jennifer Roig-Francolí. I am the creator of The Art of Freedom for Musicians, and I'm also the host of the Mind Body Practice Tribe on Facebook. It's actually now called the Musicians Mind Body Practice Tribe. So that's a free group. Just come on over and join us if you're not a member yet. We talk about all kinds of practice and performance issues in the context of a mind, body, soul, spirit, whole person integrated approach, and primarily from the approach of the Alexander technique. I am a certified teacher in the Alexander technique, and I've also been playing the violin for my whole life. I'm a professional. I also play Baroque violin and modern violin. So I've got a lot, and I'm from a musical family. So I am surrounded by musicians, and I just love to help any kind of musician, any skill level, professional or amateur. I would like to help you love your music making more. I want you to find more ease and joy in what you do every day. And I don't want you to be in pain, and performance anxiety is no fun. Been there. So if you're curious about these topics, I hope you will come join us in the tribe. And now let's dive into our topic. Hello, Angel. I'm just seeing Angel. I just saw her in one of my classes. Great to have you back. Hope you like today's topic. And Jenny, hello Jenny and Kay and everybody here. It's so nice to have familiar, friendly people here. And I hope we have some new people. So just say hello if you're new and you've never met me before. Just say hi and then I can respond to you. Okay, so inner critic. So if you've got one, just raise your hand, but I can't see you raise your hand. So put a yes or a Y if you know what I'm talking about when I talk about inner critic. Now, everybody's really got one. So it's kind of a silly question whether you have one or not. Everybody has an inner critic, thank goodness. But it's just because we're human and we're able to perceive ourselves from outside, so to speak. We're able to watch ourselves in activity, and we're also able to make adjustments. We're able to improve. We can plan, and we can look and see what happened, and we want to make things different. So thankfully, we do have an inner critic. The problem is that our inner critic isn't always kind. So actually, let's do a little tally. Usually we're weighted to one or the other more. So if you think of yourself as more towards the dictator side, just put a D there. And if you think of yourself more towards the loving guide side, put a G. Okay, let's see how many people are D's and G's. And if you're just kind of neutral and you feel like you're really in balance, most of the time, just put an N. I think I can honestly say, well, I don't know if I can honestly say I'm an N. I'm really good at being a dictator to myself. And I hesitate to call myself an abusive dictator because that's a really harsh word. Who wants to think of themselves as abusive? Not me. But the abusive word, I put that in there not just to shock us, but to realize that there is something abusive when we put ourselves down, okay? And when we make ourselves small, it's just not a kind thing to do, and it can be really harmful if you are more of a dictator. And I'm happy to see a lot of G's popping up. That's great. Oh, I love what Joe says. Joe says, mine used to be horrid. Now we are friends. So you used to be an abusive dictator. Now you're a loving guy. Love it. Okay, so, you know, the truth is we all have some of each. And Jenny put D. Okay, Jenny, I give you the prize for being, well, you're all being honest, but really to have the bravery to put D up there, I applaud you. And like I said, I am very good at criticizing myself. And I know that it's not helpful when I do that. But the topic of this video came up because the other day, a member of my practice tribe asked a question. And I love answering people's questions in these videos. By the way, if anybody has topics for me to talk on, I will be your friend forever because I hate thinking up these topics. So send them this way. But anyway, the member of my practice tribe brought up the point that I've had come up many times with my students. This question that there's a fine line between constructive criticism and harsh judgment. It's like, how do you know when your criticism is being helpful or not? How do you know if it's constructive, and how do you know if it's harmful or abusive? Again, abusive is a harsh word, but when you really look carefully, we kind of abuse ourselves when we put ourselves down and criticize ourselves. So, you know, before I started this video, I just did a little mental inventory, and I realized that it is easier for me, and it's quicker for me to think of like endless thoughts that the dictator critic might come up with. And here are some just examples off the top of my head. Like, that was really out of tune. That was bad. That was, oh, you're never going to get better. That was terrible. Are you ever going to learn? That sounded just horrible. That sound was so crunchy. That shift was not smooth. I could go on and on and on and on. I am so good at finding what's wrong in my playing. Give me a yes if you're very good at finding what's wrong or needs to be changed or fixed or improved in your playing. And I should see like a ton of yeses popping up here, or just a Y. Just hit Y on your phone if that's easier than typing yes. And if you can't think of those things, type N, but I don't think we're going to see any N's here, honestly. So it's really easy for us to think up things that we need to improve or fix, right? It's not so easy for some of us to praise ourselves or to find the things that are good, the things that are working. I mean, I don't practice and say, wow, Jennifer, that D was really in tune today. Good going. Although sometimes I do. And I'm getting better at acknowledging the things that I've done well. And when I really sit down and make a point of it, I can come up with an infinite list of things that I'm good at and I do well too. But that critic is loud. That critic was trained in me through my musical education, through my any and all other kinds of education, through upbringing, family. We are so good at trying to be better than we are. So it comes down to, see, I like to make a distinction between judging and discerning, right? Criticism can be constructive or destructive. So criticism can go either way. The way I like to use the words judgment and discernment is when I judge myself for playing that note out of tune and making a harsh sound, that I take that personally because I did something wrong and I should have been able to do it better. Now that is not helpful because it's going to make my body tight. In fact, I saw somebody comment that, I think Angel, I'm just looking through, yeah, Angel talks about it makes you, your body doesn't feel good when you're destructively critical. And that's why it's abusive, because you're actually hurting your body physically. You're introducing excess tension in your body when you're hard on yourself. You put yourself into a startle response, actually, even if it's on a very minute level. So when I'm judging myself and I'm judging my playing, I think of that as something that is personal. I take it personally. And I like to make the distinction between judging and discerning. When I'm discerning, I'm not taking it personally. I'm just giving myself a constructive criticism, like, Jennifer, that C sharp was out of tune. That's just a fact, right? If I just give myself the facts, I can't take that personally. It's just a fact. It was out of tune. Can't change the past. So the thing also is that when we become an abusive dictator for ourselves, we are harping on what happened in the past. We're no longer in the present moment. We're harping on something that happened in the past and we're taking it personally, right? We're talking to ourselves in a way that is judgmental and putting us down as a human, as a person. It's just like, how could you get that C sharp out of tune again? Whipping, slashing, like exaggerating. But sometimes we get really hard on ourselves and frustrated. And when you do that, your body gets tight and it becomes harder to think. It gets harder for the artistic creative juices to flow, and it's harder to get the C sharp in tune next time. So we're actually sabotaging ourselves by being self-critical in a judging way. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I'm going to just check in and see what's coming up here to see if this makes sense. Yes. Oh, Angel, you like the word discern. Yes, I love it too, because there's nothing, I can't take that personally. Judgment, it can go either way. And whenever I think of the word judgment, I think of the judgment. And I think of the Bible saying, judge not, and thou shalt not be judged. Well, that tells me, let's just like stay away from judgment, okay? It's not our territory. It's not my job to judge myself or anyone else. I'm just gonna stay out of that territory because that's very dangerous territory. But discernment, that's good territory because I want the information that I need to make a change. Okay, Joe says yes. I just saw your comment. Yes, very distracting and unhelpful to be self-critical and self-judging. So the opposite of that self-critical, judging, abusive dictator is really a loving guide. So if we're going to take anything personally, let's take love personally. I mean, ideally, we wouldn't really take anything personally, but the problem is we're persons. And so it's just natural and human to take things personally. So you can try to be really detached and achieve that. And actually with Alexander technique, that's the best way I know to really learn how to be wholly, truly detached from something and not take something personally. Because you can't take something personally without your body, right? You can't have an emotion without your body. You can't have a reaction without your body. Your mind and body are and emotions are totally connected. So being detached and seeing things as objective information, like that C sharp was out of tune, that's the ideal. You really want to ideally be objective and discerning about yourself so that you can listen to, or you can watch a video of yourself playing and you can just not be affected by it. You can watch it as if it's somebody else and you can say, oh, well, the sound was really nice on that passage and that phrasing was really musical. It really moved me. Yes, those notes were a little scratchy and she missed a couple notes there. Just those were the wrong notes, weren't they? But you can be objective in that way, and discernment, detachment, those are qualities that we can aspire to, and actually Alexander technique helps us get there. However, the fact remains that we are people, we have emotional responses, and we want to have emotional responses. My God, what would we be like if we didn't have feeling? And what kind of a musician doesn't have passion and feeling when they play? So if we're going to get personal, with ourselves when we are practicing and wanting to learn how to play that Bach partita better, or that invention. If we want to get better at those arpeggios, we need to, first of all, have objective information to work off of. But we also need to feed the soul, that personal soul that does get affected by how we talk to ourselves. So if you're going to take things personally, then be loving towards yourself. Don't be an abusive dictator that makes you tight and scared and pushes you. Be a loving, accepting, encouraging, mothering, fathering, brother, sisterly, lovering type of person to yourself. Because when you're with someone that you love, your system feels safe and it can calm down. Your nervous system calms down and you're not going into a fear response that makes you tight. On the contrary, when you're loving towards yourself, your nervous system can calm down and your muscles can start to release. And the energy of your passion, those musical ideas and creativity can start to flow with love. Love is life-inducing and enhancing and creates life, okay? Love is good. Love, it makes the world go around, or maybe not the world go around, but it makes people live. If you don't get love when you're an infant, you die. That's medical research. You don't get touched. A child suffers physically. So we need love, we need kindness and compassion, and you need to really train yourself to be able to come up with those loving, positive thoughts that you can feed yourself, loving responses to what happens. And not just, and yes, Nanette just wrote, be forgiving. Absolutely. And also, if you played that note out of tune, it's over. And it was the best you could do at that moment. There's not even anything to forgive, right? It's over. But yes, I totally agree with you, Nanette. You can look at it in two ways. If you screw up a note, you can feel really bad about it. And if you do, then forgive yourself. Or if you play an out of tune note, you could say, well, I did the best I could. And that's just the best I could do. I did nothing wrong. I did my best. And there's nothing to forgive. And I'm going to move on. You can look at it both ways. So let's see. Joe also says, daily loving kindness did the trick for me. Yes, I remember, Joe, you mentioned you had a really nice daily practice of feeding yourself positive, constructive thoughts. And that's fabulous to get into that habit. So as musicians, we want to start, first of all, noticing. You've got to get to be a really good self-observer. That's what Alexander did. He observed himself and he experimented for years to solve his performance problems. So you want to get really good at observing. You want to get to know how you're talking to yourself. How are you thinking? When you screw up, do you go like this? A lot of people do. And it's just an instinctual reaction. But then don't judge yourself for that. Right? Then start to develop, train yourself to have a loving response to that. Instead of, oh, that was so bad, you can go, oh, wow, that was interesting. You know what? I have a lot to learn and I love learning. And Jennifer, gosh, it's so great that you are still wanting to learn at your age, right? So this is where creativity comes in, because the truth of the matter is, and there's research on this, your brain is hardwired to notice the negative, like 5 times as much as the positive. So you're not going to go around thinking, oh, that A was in tune, that B was in tune, that phrase was really nice. Oh, I liked how I did that little turn there. That trill worked great. What a nice vibrato, Jennifer. You're just not naturally going to do that, because we are made to notice the things that stick out, that seem out of place and wrong. But that's all the more reason to train ourselves in the opposite. And you've got to they really stack it up in the other side, in the loving guide side, especially if you have a really strong habit of being a dictator and a controlling, critical force in your own life for yourself. You've got to make a concerted intention, concerted effort to produce those positive thoughts that are going to help you. So I would, if you were my student, I would give you a little exercise to do, an experiment. And if you want, we can do it together in the Mind Body Practice Tribe. If you're not a member yet, just come on over. It's the Musicians Mind Body Practice Tribe. It's free. So we could start, so the experiment or the assignment would be to make a list of all the positive, not all because that's infinite, make a list while you practice today or tomorrow, next time you practice, have a positive list. Sometimes I call them angels of ease to counter the doubt monsters. If you're my student or you're in the tribe, you know what the doubt monsters are. We talk about that a lot. But angels of ease are even more powerful than the doubt monsters, but you've got to wake them up. You have to know that they're there. So next time you practice, make a little list of all the good things. I challenge you, at least 10 good things, 10 things you could like about your playing, and share it. Share it in the practice tribe, okay? So criticism, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's how you do it. In fact, sometimes you can even use the same words, and depending on how you speak to yourself, you're either an abusive dictator or a loving guide. So for instance, Jennifer, that C sharp was really sharp. That was out of tune. That was kind of neutral. But I could have gone, Jennifer, oh my God, that C sharp was so out of tune again. That's the abusive dictator. And you see how tight my body got when I did that. I'm not gonna play as well if I play after I just did that to myself, okay? That's pretty much a no-brainer if you think about it. So what if I said, wow, Jennifer, you've been really doing good work on that passage, and it's really challenging for you, but you stuck with it today. Now, you didn't get the C sharp in tune today, but I bet you're gonna get it tomorrow, so just stick with it. Just keep doing your practicing and don't worry about it. Just move on to the next thing. You're gonna get it in its own good time. Everything in its own good time. That would be a loving guide, don't you think? So I would love to get your responses here. And I hope this was useful, helpful for you. And I know this is a topic that is very common. We, as classical musicians, we are trained to notice what we're doing, thankfully, but then we're not so well trained to listen to how we talk to ourselves. And one last parting idea. Being discerning is a quality. To be a great musician, you have to be able to hear when that C sharp is out of tune. You have to develop your sensitivity to different qualities of sound so that you can really refine what you're doing over time. So hearing the things that are not up to the standard you aspire to, that's a great quality. Discernment. And yeah, discernment. We all need that. It's information that you feed to your brain. But then you've got to just let your brain process it. You can't force your brain to process something faster than it can. So as soon as you take in the information about what you want to do differently next time, formulate the intention. Okay, next time I would like that C sharp to be a little higher or whatever, right? You have a clear intention. Then your work is mostly to get out of the way of your mind and that abusive dictator that wants to take over and control stuff, right? Get out of the way. Trust that your brain knows how to organize and coordinate with your body to get that C sharp a little higher by moving your finger a little higher. Your brain knows how to do it. You, thinking mind, needs to get out of the way and just create a loving space and environment for yourself to thrive in. And I promise you're going to learn faster, and your sound is going to be amazing when it comes from a place of love, from your heart, with your whole self. And it's not going to be so amazing if you're an abusive dictator. People can hear the difference. Okay, so yeah, Joe says it's very difficult to be observant while being self-critical. That's true too. When you're self-critical, when you're an abusive dictator, you get tight and your powers of observation are actually skewed. You can't be as objective anymore because your passionate frustration takes over, and seriously, your muscles and everything gets tight so that you cannot take in the information that you need. You can't process it as quickly or as well or accurately as you could if you were getting out of the way and you were allowing things to be open and flow. So you are totally right, Joe. Okay, well, I don't see any more comments coming on, but let's move on over to the Mind Body Practice Tribe. I'm going to get a conversation started over there on this topic. So I welcome you all to join if you're not members yet. And tag me if you've got any questions. And thank you for being here. I try to be here every Thursday at 2 o'clock, but I've had some conflicts lately, and I apologize. Heads up, next Tuesday I also will not be able to be here because I'll be performing in Cleveland, and the rehearsal schedule just got changed. So I can't be here next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and I will possibly reschedule, but definitely I'll be here in 2 weeks. I will do my best to be here for you again in 2 Thursdays at 2 p.m. So see you over in the Musicians Mind Body Practice Tribe, and enjoy the good things that you do, because there are way more good things that you do than bad. I fully trust in everyone here. Humans are fundamentally good, and if we would just pay attention to that, the world would be a much happier and safer place. So happy practicing, and lots of love.